What if you suddenly lost everything and had no one by your side? Imagine waking up one morning, the world you thought you knew crumbling beneath your feet, your safety nets pulled away in an instant. This is exactly what happened to Elon Musk, a man known for his unbreakable vision and drive, when a dark secret about 6 seemingly ordinary restaurants began to unravel his life. The story you're about to read is more than just a tale of business intrigue, it's a journey through deception, danger, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? It all started with a tip from an unexpected source, an anonymous message warning Elon about these 6 restaurants scattered across the United States. These establishments, each with its own name and reputation, weren't just places to grab a bite. They were hiding something sinister, something powerful enough to shake Elon's world to its core. Initially skeptical, Elon dismissed the warning as a prank or a distraction. But curiosity gnawed at him. With a restless mind and a heart full of questions, he decided to investigate. The first restaurant was a modest diner in a sleepy Texas town, far removed from the glitz and glamour of Silicon Valley. When Elon stepped inside, the air felt heavy, thick with an unspoken tension. The staff's smiles were tight, their eyes darting nervously. Something was off. As he ordered his meal, he noticed the other customers were unusually quiet, their faces pale and wary. Suddenly, a commotion erupted in the kitchen, a staff member collapsed, clutching their throat, gasping for air. Panic spread quickly, but the restaurant manager hurriedly hushed everyone, insisting it was nothing serious. Elon's instincts screamed otherwise. After that night, he reached out to a former employee who had quietly fled the restaurant business. She spoke of strange illnesses, disappearances, and whispered threats. Elon's skepticism gave way to alarm. What had started as a curiosity was now a full-blown investigation. Each visit to the next restaurants, the second in New York, the third in Chicago, the fourth in Los Angeles, the fifth in Miami, and the sixth in Seattle, unveiled deeper layers of mystery and danger. Employees vanished without explanation, customers reported bizarre symptoms. Behind polished facades were operations entangled with shadowy corporate networks and illegal activities. Along the way, Elon's closest friends warned him to stop. The stakes were too high, the enemies too powerful. But Elon's determination only grew stronger. The fear of losing everything didn't paralyze him, it fueled his resolve. Every encounter was a test of courage, a battle against unseen forces determined to keep their secrets buried. At one point, Elon attempted to go public with his findings. He expected support, but instead met fierce resistance. Powerful interests launched legal threats, smear campaigns, and attempts to silence him. Yet, amidst the chaos, he found allies, whistleblowers willing to risk it all, investigative journalists hungry for the truth, and ordinary people desperate for justice. Together, they formed a fragile but unbreakable network. The emotional toll was immense. Elon endured nights filled with doubt and grief, moments when the weight of it all threatened to crush him. A close friend's terrifying experience at one of the restaurants drove the reality home. This wasn't just a story of corporate greed, it was about lives at risk, about the thin line between trust and betrayal. With every step, Elon's journey became less about uncovering a scandal and more about fighting for the safety and dignity of people trapped in this nightmare. The 6 restaurants, each a chapter of a larger story, revealed an interconnected web of corruption and exploitation. The final visit, marked by a confrontation that felt more like a showdown in a thriller, brought truths to light that would shake the nation. But even as hope flickered in the darkness, Elon knew the battle was far from over. Consulting experts in health, law, and technology, he pieced together the full extent of the danger. The public's reaction was a storm of outrage, disbelief, and support. The fight spilled into courts and media, alliances formed and fractured, betrayals threatened progress, but the resolve remained unshaken. As the final blow landed against the corrupt empire behind the 6 restaurants, Elon's life and perspective transformed. He reflected on lessons learned, the fragile nature of trust, the power of sacrifice, and the enduring strength of love and family. Life is full of surprises, but love will always lead the way. This story is not just about 6 restaurants or one man's crusade. It's a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope persists, and courage can ignite change. Hit subscribe and share where you're watching from. What drives you to keep going when everything seems lost? Remember, sometimes the toughest battles lead to the brightest new beginnings. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Elon Musk's story was never one of simple success, it was woven from the threads of struggle, ambition, and relentless pursuit of innovation. Born in South Africa, Elon's childhood was marked by isolation and a hunger for knowledge that often set him apart from his peers. He found refuge in books and computers, escaping a turbulent family life where his parents' complicated relationship cast long shadows over his formative years. His father was a strict and often distant man, his mother a nurturing yet overburdened woman trying to keep the family afloat. These conflicting forces shaped Elon's psyche, embedding a deep desire to prove himself and make a lasting impact on the world. Moving to America in his early adulthood, Elon embraced the land of opportunity, but success did not come easily. He endured years of setbacks and failures, early startups that fizzled, financial struggles that tested his resolve, and personal relationships strained by his obsession with work. Yet, through it all, Elon remained driven by an unshakable belief that technology could change humanity's future. His friendships were few but fiercely loyal. His closest confidants knew a side of Elon few others did, a man burdened by expectations, haunted by self-doubt, yet unyielding in his quest. Love was complicated. Romantic relationships flickered in and out of his life, sometimes fueling his passion, sometimes leaving him more isolated. Family ties, though distant, carried weight, especially as Elon wrestled with the sacrifices his journey demanded. This backstory was more than a biography, it was the foundation for everything that would come. When the mysterious warnings about the 6 restaurants surfaced, it wasn't just another curiosity for Elon, it was a challenge that touched on everything he had endured. The restaurants, it seemed, represented a new kind of frontier, one where corporate greed and human vulnerability collided in ways he had never imagined. His past gave him the grit to dive in, despite the risks. It was a past filled with scars, but also with lessons about resilience and the power of hope. As Elon prepared to confront this new mystery, he carried with him the weight of all he had overcome and the fierce determination to not let history repeat itself. The emotional landscape of his life, marked by early loneliness, moments of brilliance, and painful betrayals, became the lens through which he viewed the unfolding crisis. Each step into the investigation was a step back into the fears and hopes that had shaped him. Yet, amid the darkness of the restaurant's secrets, Elon's relationships offered light. His closest friends, those who had stood by him through the hardest times, rallied to his side. They reminded him that no matter the odds, he was never truly alone. Family connections, though complicated, became sources of unexpected strength and insight. These bonds humanized Elon in ways few saw, grounding his fight not just in ambition, but in love and responsibility. This chapter of Elon's life was a testament to the complex interplay of past and present. It showed how a man who once struggled to find his place now stood ready to fight for others' safety and truth. It revealed the emotional core behind a public figure, one who carried the weight of personal history into every battle. As the investigation deepened, Elon's understanding of himself grew. He saw parallels between his own battles and the fight unfolding before him. The 6 restaurants were more than just corrupt businesses, they were symbols of the obstacles life throws in the path of those who dare to dream and act. Through flashbacks to moments of childhood fear and adult triumph, the narrative painted a vivid picture of Elon's psyche, a blend of vulnerability and iron will. This rich character tapestry made the stakes feel personal, allowing readers to connect deeply with the journey ahead. With this foundation laid, the story was poised to shift into the rising conflict. Elon's past was not just background. It was a source of strength and a mirror reflecting the challenges to come. Every relationship, every memory would influence his choices, his resilience, and ultimately, his ability to confront the dark forces behind the 6 restaurants. This was the emotional engine driving the story forward, preparing readers for the tense and unpredictable path Elon was about to walk. Through it all, the message was clear: no matter how difficult the past, no matter how daunting the present, hope and connection can light the way forward. Elon's backstory was not a tale of defeat but a map of how to survive, fight, and grow in the face of overwhelming odds. It was a story of complexity and contradiction, one that made his character real, relatable, and inspiring. As the investigation moved from curiosity to crisis, this foundation ensured every twist, every revelation, carried emotional weight and urgency. Elon Musk was more than a figure of innovation. He was a symbol of human endurance and the power of heart in the darkest moments. This chapter closed not with answers but with the stirring sense that the journey had truly begun, and that the man at its center was ready to face whatever lay ahead, armed with the lessons of a lifetime. The 6 restaurants that had become the center of Elon Musk's investigation were as varied as the cities they inhabited, yet each carried a shadow that linked them in a chilling pattern. Their names were ordinary enough: the Red Lantern in Austin, the Velvet Spoon in New York, the Glass Onion in Chicago, Harbor House in Los Angeles, the Sunflower Table in Miami, and Evergreen Bistro in Seattle, but behind the inviting facades lay secrets that whispered of danger. Elon first heard about them from a cryptic message sent to one of his trusted aides. The note contained nothing but a list of names and addresses, alongside a warning: don't eat food in these 6 restaurants. You don't know what's really on the menu. Initially, it seemed like a prank or some viral marketing stunt. Yet something about the timing and the way the message was delivered unsettled Elon. These restaurants weren't just random spots, they had a strange reputation, known in certain circles for unexplained health complaints, abrupt closures of branches, and employees who left abruptly, often without explanation. Elon's curiosity pushed him to look deeper. His first step was to research each location, scouring online reviews, customer forums, health department records, and news articles. What emerged was a pattern that no ordinary consumer would notice at first glance. Multiple reports hinted at food poisoning outbreaks that mysteriously weren't confirmed by official sources. Former employees posted warnings on social media but then deleted their accounts. Local news covered minor incidents that seemed to disappear without follow-up. There were even whispers of connections between these restaurants and political donors, making investigations difficult to pursue publicly. Elon's internal conflict grew. He wanted to protect people, to use his influence to shine light on wrongdoing, but he also feared the backlash that would come from taking on powerful business interests. The risk was real, but so was the potential to stop something harmful from spreading further. His team began mapping out the 6 restaurants, planning visits, interviews, and undercover research. Elon knew firsthand that the truth rarely came easy. Digging into these establishments was going to be a test of both strategy and endurance. The first stop was the Red Lantern in Austin, where a local journalist had once reported strange odors in the kitchen and a rash of sudden employee absences. The building looked unremarkable, nestled among a row of bustling shops. Inside, the atmosphere felt sterile yet tense. The staff was polite but seemed guarded, and subtle glances were exchanged whenever Elon's questions skirted too close to their operations. As Elon dined, a low murmur among the patrons suggested a shared unease. Stories slipped out between bites: someone noticed a regular customer had vanished, another spoke of an unexplained health scare. Elon jotted down details, sensing the threads of a larger story beginning to weave together. Moving to the Velvet Spoon in New York, the contrast was striking: a high-end, trendy eatery with a clientele that included tech elites and celebrities. Yet behind the glamour was a hint of something off. A waitress nervously confided that the kitchen staff was under unusual pressure, with managers enforcing strict secrecy around suppliers and menu changes. Elon's instincts told him this was more than corporate policy, it was a protective shield. The Glass Onion in Chicago presented a different kind of puzzle. Known for its avant-garde dishes and mysterious ambience, it attracted food critics and influencers. Yet Elon's visit uncovered hidden areas, rooms closed off to the public, security cameras monitoring even employees, and a staff that avoided eye contact. Conversations overheard hinted at contracts with dubious vendors and unusual waste disposal methods. Harbor House in Los Angeles felt like the epicenter of a shadow network. The sprawling coastal property boasted luxury and exclusivity, but also signs of covert activity. Elon spotted unmarked vehicles arriving at odd hours and overheard hushed discussions about compliance and handling problems. His growing concern was tempered only by the realization that these were not isolated incidents but pieces of a coordinated puzzle. The Sunflower Table in Miami and Evergreen Bistro in Seattle followed similar patterns. Both appeared charming on the surface, with loyal local followings and promising reviews. But beneath the smiles were employees who spoke in guarded tones about strange policies, and managers who discouraged questions. Health inspectors, it seemed, were often turned away or given limited access. What tied these 6 restaurants together wasn't just their suspicious practices but a shadowy network of ownership that traced back to a small group of investors with murky histories. Elon's research revealed connections to shell companies, offshore accounts, and political lobbying groups that wielded influence to quash investigations. The complexity of the web was staggering, and it quickly became clear that uncovering the truth would mean confronting not just business owners but entrenched systems of power. This realization added weight to Elon's mission. His visits had already drawn attention. Security personnel started appearing at locations when he arrived, anonymous warnings were sent to his phone, and whispers of lawsuits began to circulate. The danger was no longer theoretical. Yet with every piece of information, Elon's resolve hardened. The stakes were personal now. He thought back to the people affected, employees who vanished without a trace, customers who fell ill without answers, communities unknowingly caught in the crossfire of greed. These weren't just headlines, they were lives. The 6 restaurants were symbols of something far darker, a hidden menace operating under the guise of everyday business. As the puzzle took shape, Elon knew the coming days would be filled with challenges that tested every ounce of his courage and intellect. The investigation was no longer about curiosity, it was about justice. This chapter of his journey revealed the power of persistence and the importance of paying attention to the subtle signs others overlooked. It was a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous threats hide in plain sight, behind familiar doors and friendly faces. What began as a simple warning had become a quest to expose a network of deception that threatened countless lives. Elon's story, intertwined with these 6 restaurants, was now a story of confrontation, a battle between light and shadow, truth and silence. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the more Elon learned, the more he understood that stopping this dark network required more than courage, it required allies, strategy, and the willingness to face the unknown head-on. And so, with a growing sense of purpose and urgency, Elon prepared to dive even deeper into the mystery, knowing that the answers lay not just in what was visible, but in what had been carefully hidden. The 6 restaurants were no longer just names on a list, they were the keys to a story that could change everything. The investigation into the 6 restaurants took Elon Musk down a path he never expected, a path that led far beyond food safety concerns into a web of corruption, exploitation, and danger. As he delved deeper, the story transformed from a local mystery into a national crisis. The journey was no longer just about uncovering facts, it was a test of endurance, resolve, and survival. Elon found himself caught in a shadow war between truth-seekers and powerful interests who would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. After gathering initial intel on the surface, Elon decided it was time to go undercover. Using aliases and discreet contacts, he and a small trusted team started visiting the restaurants more frequently, speaking with employees in confidence, documenting irregularities, and collecting evidence. Each visit was a balancing act between caution and boldness. At the Red Lantern in Austin, Elon experienced firsthand the uneasy atmosphere that previous visitors had described. Behind the kitchen's swinging doors, whispered conversations stopped abruptly whenever he approached. One young cook, after some gentle probing, confided that management pressured staff to ignore health violations and push questionable ingredients into dishes. She spoke of workers who fell ill but were forced to keep quiet or lose their jobs. Elon's heart tightened at the thought of exploitation masked by the warm glow of diner lights. In New York at the Velvet Spoon, the scene was even more surreal. The restaurant was a beacon of luxury and exclusivity, but behind closed doors, Elon witnessed a culture of intimidation. Staff meetings were terse, rules about secrecy were drilled in, and anyone showing curiosity faced subtle but clear warnings. A former manager, reached through an anonymous tip, described the restaurant's ties to a network that supplied unregulated ingredients, some of which were rumored to be harmful but profitable. Chicago's The Glass Onion revealed yet another layer of complexity. Elon discovered evidence that food waste was being disposed of illegally, sometimes dumped into waterways under cover of night. Environmental activists working near the area had noticed strange smells and dying fish but struggled to get authorities to act. Elon's presence stirred the staff, and security was tightened noticeably. In Los Angeles at Harbor House, Elon witnessed the heavy hand of private security and covert surveillance. Cameras monitored every corner, and employees were required to sign non-disclosure agreements under threat of legal action. A brave line cook whispered about deliveries from unknown suppliers and suspicious health inspections that seemed more like rubber stamps than real checks. Miami's Sunflower Table and Seattle's Evergreen Bistro shared these patterns of secrecy and control. Elon learned of staff who had been threatened, customers who left abruptly with symptoms, and managers who vanished as suddenly as they appeared. The investigation became a high-stakes game of cat and mouse. Elon's team mapped supply chains, traced money flows, and connected dots that formed a sprawling network of shell companies and offshore accounts. They uncovered bribery schemes designed to keep regulatory agencies silent and aggressive tactics used to intimidate whistleblowers. The deeper Elon went, the clearer it became that this wasn't just about food safety, it was a systemic abuse of power at the intersection of business, politics, and organized crime. This realization shifted the tone of the investigation from curiosity to urgency. Elon had to protect not only himself and his team but also those brave enough to come forward. The danger was real. One night, after a meeting with a whistleblower who provided damning documents, Elon's car was followed by unmarked vehicles. His phone was hacked, and anonymous threats arrived warning him to stop digging. Yet Elon refused to back down. He leaned on his closest friends, who helped with security and legal counsel. They set up safe communication channels and contingency plans, knowing that exposure could mean retaliation. The emotional toll was immense. Elon grappled with moments of fear, isolation, and frustration. He wrestled with questions about sacrifice, trust, and how far he was willing to go. But hope flickered in the form of allies, investigative journalists who amplified the findings, community activists who rallied public awareness, and a growing number of employees ready to speak out despite risks. Together, they formed a fragile coalition against a powerful adversary. The emotional climax came when Elon uncovered the central figure orchestrating the network, a shadowy tycoon whose influence spanned industries and political corridors. This revelation shook Elon to his core. The scale of corruption was staggering, and the stakes now felt overwhelming. Yet within this climax, a glimmer of hope emerged. With the help of legal experts and journalists, Elon prepared to bring the truth to light through a carefully coordinated public exposé. The plan was risky but necessary. It would shake the foundations of the corrupt empire behind the 6 restaurants and force accountability. As the day of the exposé approached, tension mounted. Elon reflected on how far he had come, from a curious message to standing on the edge of a national scandal. He thought of the people affected, the friends who stood by him, and the lessons from his past that kept him grounded. The journey was not just about exposing wrongdoing but about standing up for those who couldn't fight for themselves. When the story broke, the impact was immediate and explosive. Media outlets across the country covered the revelations, public outrage surged, and authorities launched investigations. The 6 restaurants faced closures, lawsuits, and criminal probes. But the battle was far from over. Powerful forces pushed back, denials, disinformation campaigns, and legal counterattacks aimed to discredit Elon and his allies. Yet the momentum for change was unstoppable. The public's demand for transparency and safety grew louder. New policies were proposed, whistleblower protection strengthened, and a nationwide conversation about corporate responsibility ignited. In the aftermath, Elon reflected on the emotional journey. The fight had tested his limits, but it also showed the power of courage, truth, and community. He understood that real change required more than exposing problems. It demanded persistence and collective action. This climactic journey was a turning point, not just for Elon, but for everyone touched by the story. It proved that even in the face of overwhelming odds, hope could lead the way. The road ahead promised challenges, but also new beginnings. Elon's story became a symbol of resilience and the enduring fight for justice, reminding us all that sometimes the hardest journeys bring the greatest rewards. The emotional climax of Elon Musk's investigation into the 6 restaurants revealed truths that shook not only his resolve but the very foundation of the food industry. The day the exposé was published, Elon sat in a quiet room surrounded by screens displaying breaking news feeds, social media reactions, and live footage of protests erupting outside the implicated restaurants. The atmosphere was electric, charged with a mix of triumph and tension. The revelations were explosive: toxic ingredients hidden in menu items, illegal dumping of hazardous waste, employee intimidation, and a vast network of bribery connecting the restaurants to powerful political figures. For the first time, the public saw the scope of the corruption, and outrage spread like wildfire. But amid the initial wave of hope, the situation quickly spiraled. The implicated tycoon at the heart of the scandal launched a ferocious counterattack. His media allies flooded airwaves with denials and conspiracy theories, aiming to discredit Elon and the whistleblowers. Legal threats piled up, and behind the scenes, efforts to silence activists intensified. Elon watched helplessly as the battle moved beyond facts into a war of influence and misinformation. In this intense moment, Elon's inner struggle became palpable. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on him. He thought of the employees who had risked everything to speak out, the customers whose trust had been betrayed, and the communities affected by environmental damage. The emotional stakes were higher than ever. Yet, even as the darkness closed in, a spark of hope remained. Grassroots organizations mobilized, organizing rallies and pushing for legislative reform. Journalists doubled down on investigative reporting, unveiling more evidence. Key politicians, unable to ignore the public outcry, began calling for hearings and stricter regulations. Elon found strength in these allies, understanding that the fight was bigger than any one person. The crisis reached a turning point during a tense congressional hearing where Elon testified alongside former employees and experts. The hearing was broadcast live, bringing the issue into millions of homes. Elon spoke with conviction, detailing the journey from a mysterious warning to a nationwide investigation. His testimony was raw and emotional, revealing the human cost of corporate greed and the importance of accountability. The hearing also revealed cracks in the opposition's armor. Under oath, some executives stumbled, and evidence previously hidden came to light. The tide began to turn. This emotional climax was not just about exposing wrongdoing but about reclaiming power from those who had abused it. For Elon, it was a moment of catharsis and renewed purpose. He reflected on the personal battles that had prepared him for this fight, the isolation of his youth, the betrayals he had endured, and the sacrifices made in pursuit of his vision. Those experiences fueled his determination to see the crisis through to resolution. The public reaction was overwhelming. Support poured in from across the country, including from families who had been affected and employees inspired by the courage shown. Grassroots movements expanded into national campaigns demanding transparency and reform in the restaurant industry and beyond. Legislators responded by drafting new laws aimed at increasing food safety inspections, protecting whistleblowers, and enhancing environmental protections. Elon's work sparked a broader conversation about corporate responsibility and the role of innovation in safeguarding public health. Yet the climax also brought personal challenges. Elon faced increased scrutiny, both from the media and his detractors. The legal battles were draining, and the pressure strained his relationships with friends and family. Moments of doubt crept in, threatening to overwhelm him. But through it all, Elon held on to a core belief, that truth and justice were worth fighting for, no matter the cost. The emotional journey was profound, marked by moments of despair and bursts of hope, echoing the very climax pattern that had defined the story from the start. This chapter revealed the complexity of change, that progress often comes with setbacks and requires resilience. It underscored that victories in the fight against corruption and injustice are never final but part of an ongoing struggle. As the dust settled on the hearing, Elon looked ahead to the challenges that remained. The 6 restaurants faced closures, ongoing investigations, and lawsuits. Regulatory agencies ramped up enforcement, but systemic change would take time. Elon knew that lasting impact required vigilance, collaboration, and continued pressure on institutions and industries to prioritize ethics over profit. The emotional climax transformed Elon's role from investigator to advocate and leader. His journey became a beacon for others willing to challenge entrenched systems. The story was no longer just about restaurants but about the power of individuals to confront injustice and inspire change. In the quiet moments after the storm, Elon reflected on the life lessons this chapter had taught him. He realized that sacrifice, courage, and community were the pillars of meaningful progress. The scars from the fight were real, but so were the bonds forged and the hope rekindled. The emotional climax closed with a powerful reminder that while darkness can seem overwhelming, the human spirit's resilience and the pursuit of truth can light the way forward. Elon's story was far from over, but this pivotal chapter stood as a testament to the strength found in facing the hardest truths and choosing hope in the face of adversity. After the emotional climax of the exposé and congressional hearing, Elon Musk knew the fight was only beginning. The public's attention had been captured, but true change required more than headlines and court battles. It demanded a deeper transformation, both in the system and in himself. The resolution and reflection chapter of his journey unfolded as a quiet reckoning, marked by lessons learned, hard-won victories, and a profound understanding of sacrifice, love, and family. In the weeks following the hearing, Elon immersed himself in the aftermath. The 6 restaurants were shuttered one by one as investigations intensified, their owners facing criminal charges and civil lawsuits. Regulators strengthened food safety laws, and whistleblower protections were enacted. The ripple effect spread beyond the industry, sparking conversations about corporate ethics nationwide. Yet despite these tangible wins, Elon wrestled with a lingering sense of unease. The corruption he had uncovered was a symptom of larger systemic issues: greed, secrecy, and a willingness to sacrifice human lives for profit. He realized that exposing the network was just the first step in a longer journey toward justice. This realization brought him back to the people at the heart of the story. The employees who risked everything to speak out, the families hurt by negligence, and the communities that had suffered silently. Elon reached out to these individuals, offering support and building bridges of trust. Their stories deepened his empathy and fueled his commitment to advocacy. Through these connections, Elon discovered the transformative power of love and sacrifice. Many employees had endured fear and isolation but chose to act out of a desire to protect others. Families forgave even as they grieved. Communities came together to heal and rebuild. Elon reflected on his own life, his family's support during difficult times, the friendships that sustained him, and the sacrifices made along the way. These relationships had shaped his character and given him strength when facing adversity. The journey also taught him humility. Despite his success and influence, Elon understood that no one person could change the world alone. Real progress required collaboration, listening, and sometimes stepping back to let others lead. He found new respect for activists, journalists, legal experts, and everyday heroes who fought battles invisible to most. This chapter in Elon's story was marked by meaningful messages that resonated deeply. He often shared these lessons in interviews and speeches, that life is unpredictable and full of challenges, but love and community can provide a guiding light, that sacrifice, though painful, is often necessary for growth and justice, and that hope is not a passive feeling but an active choice to keep moving forward. Elon's reflections also touched on the importance of resilience and optimism. He spoke candidly about moments of doubt and fear, emphasizing that these feelings were natural but must not define the journey. Instead, he urged people to find what pushes them forward, a purpose, a person, or a principle, and hold on to it tightly. As Elon rebuilt his life from the intense public scrutiny and legal battles, he focused on personal growth. He prioritized time with family and close friends, finding balance in everyday moments that brought joy and peace. This shift deepened his understanding of success, shifting it from achievement to meaning. The resolution was not a tidy ending but a profound transformation. Elon's experience with the 6 restaurants became a catalyst for change within himself and his community. It was a story of confronting darkness but choosing light, of facing fear but embracing courage, and of recognizing that the greatest victories are those that nurture love and justice. In the final reflection, Elon often returned to the question that began it all: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? For him, the answer was clear: love, in its many forms, was the force that sustained him. It was the love of family, the love of truth, and the love of humanity that made the impossible fight worthwhile. This story, his story, was a reminder that while life may be full of surprises and hardships, love will always lead the way. The journey through betrayal, danger, and revelation had left scars but also gifts, lessons etched into his heart and mind that shaped the person he had become. Elon Musk's investigation into the 6 restaurants ended not with a simple victory but with a powerful message of hope and resilience. It showed that even when the world seems darkest, individuals can make a difference by standing up, speaking out, and holding fast to what matters most. The story closed on this note, that every ending is also a new beginning, and every struggle an opportunity to grow stronger. Elon's path forward was uncertain but brightened by the knowledge that truth, love, and courage would guide him, and all of us, toward a better future. After the dust settled from the exposé and the initial wave of reforms, Elon Musk realized that the battle against corruption and negligence was far from over. The aftermath brought new challenges, some expected, others surprising, that tested his resolve and forced him to adapt. Marked the beginning of a new phase, rebuilding trust, empowering communities, and fostering transparency in the food industry and beyond. The first step was addressing the skepticism that lingered among the public. Despite the scandal's exposure and the shutdown of the 6 notorious restaurants, many consumers remained wary. Distrust toward the food industry had deepened, fueled by years of hidden abuses and now amplified by the revelations. Elon understood that restoring faith required more than regulatory action, it demanded cultural change and proactive engagement. He began organizing community forums where affected individuals, activists, regulators, and industry leaders could come together openly. These gatherings were raw and emotional, with stories of betrayal, fear, and hope woven through every conversation. Elon listened carefully, taking notes and connecting people who could support one another. Slowly, a movement for accountability and transparency gained momentum. The forums led to the formation of independent watchdog groups empowered by citizen volunteers. These groups worked alongside regulators to monitor restaurants and suppliers, ensuring compliance and reporting abuses. Elon helped develop educational campaigns that taught consumers how to recognize signs of unsafe practices and encouraged them to speak out. Technology played a critical role. Elon leveraged his expertise and connections to create an app that allowed users to rate and review restaurants based on health standards and ethical practices. The app also featured real-time alerts about inspections, recalls, and violations, making information accessible and actionable. This innovation gave consumers unprecedented power and sparked a wave of responsible dining choices. Meanwhile, Elon reached out directly to the employees who had suffered under the corrupt restaurants. He established support networks that provided legal aid, counseling, and job training, helping workers rebuild their lives and careers. These efforts were deeply personal for Elon, who saw in these individuals the resilience and courage that inspired his own fight. On the business side, Elon encouraged entrepreneurs and restaurateurs to embrace transparency and sustainability as core values. He partnered with startups developing safer supply chains and eco-friendly packaging, promoting a new model of hospitality built on trust and respect. This approach attracted attention and investment, signaling a shift in industry standards. However, not everyone welcomed the change. Powerful interests continued to resist, deploying legal challenges and lobbying against stricter regulations. Elon faced renewed threats and smear campaigns designed to undermine his credibility. The pressure was intense, but the network of allies he had built provided support and strength. One of the most unexpected developments came from the political arena. Spurred by public demand, lawmakers introduced comprehensive reforms that went beyond food safety to address corporate accountability across industries. Elon testified multiple times, advocating for laws that protected whistleblowers, increased transparency in supply chains, and imposed harsher penalties for violations. His voice carried weight, but progress required persistence and compromise. The process was slow and often frustrating, but Elon remained committed, knowing that systemic change was a marathon, not a sprint. Throughout this rebuilding phase, Elon's personal growth was evident. The trials he faced had deepened his empathy, patience, and leadership. He became a mentor to younger activists and entrepreneurs, sharing his story and encouraging them to pursue change with integrity and resilience. Elon also balanced his public work with private moments of reflection and connection. Time with family and close friends became a sanctuary, a reminder that love and support were essential to sustain the long fight. Emotionally, this chapter was about healing and renewal. Elon confronted the scars left by betrayal and danger but chose to transform them into sources of strength and inspiration. He embraced vulnerability as a path to authenticity and connection. The journey taught him that progress often comes in small, incremental steps rather than dramatic breakthroughs. The story of the 6 restaurants evolved from a tale of corruption and fear into a testament to human resilience and the power of community. Elon's experience showed that even when systems seem broken, individuals and groups can come together to rebuild with honesty and courage. As this chapter closed, Elon reflected on the lessons that would carry forward, that transparency is not just a policy but a mindset, that trust must be earned daily through consistent actions, and that hope thrives when people unite around shared values. The fight for justice and safety was ongoing, but the foundations laid during this phase promised a future where accountability was the norm rather than the exception. Elon's journey embodied the truth that meaningful change is messy, challenging, and rarely linear, but it is possible when driven by love, purpose, and unwavering determination. The story continued, with Elon ready to face whatever new obstacles and opportunities lay ahead, confident that the seeds planted in this chapter would grow into lasting progress. As Elon Musk's movement for transparency and reform gained momentum, he found himself at a crossroads. The successes of the past months were undeniable, but with growth came complexity. The next challenge was navigating the intersection of innovation and ethics in an industry ripe for disruption. Elon's efforts to integrate cutting-edge technology into food safety and sustainability while maintaining a deep commitment to human values. Elon realized early that technology could be a double-edged sword. On one hand, advancements like blockchain, AI-driven quality control, and real-time monitoring promised to revolutionize how food was sourced, prepared, and served. On the other, unchecked technological adoption risked dehumanizing the process or allowing new forms of exploitation and opacity to creep in. He assembled a diverse team of experts, engineers, ethicists, food scientists, and community advocates, to create a framework that balanced innovation with accountability. This coalition worked tirelessly to develop tech solutions that were transparent, inclusive, and designed to empower rather than replace workers. One of the flagship projects was the Food Transparency Network, a platform leveraging blockchain technology to track every ingredient from farm to table. The system allowed consumers to scan a QR code on restaurant menus or packaged foods and instantly access detailed information about sourcing, safety inspections, and environmental impact. The network fostered trust by making information immutable and accessible, reducing opportunities for fraud and misinformation. Elon championed this project as a model for how technology could restore faith in the food industry while supporting sustainable practices. Meanwhile, AI-powered inspection drones were deployed to perform routine checks on farms and restaurants, identifying contamination risks and unsafe conditions faster than human inspectors could. This technology reduced human error and increased the frequency of oversight, contributing to a safer food supply. Yet Elon was careful to ensure that these innovations complemented, rather than replaced, the essential role of human judgment and care. He insisted that workers be trained to use the new tools effectively and that their voices remain central in decision-making. Alongside technological innovation, Elon pushed for systemic shifts in food production and consumption patterns. He advocated for regenerative agriculture practices that restored soil health, promoted biodiversity, and reduced carbon emissions. He supported urban farming initiatives that brought fresh produce to underserved communities and reduced the carbon footprint of food transportation. These efforts were deeply personal to Elon, who had witnessed firsthand the environmental and social costs of industrialized food systems. Elon's commitment extended to policy advocacy as well. He worked closely with lawmakers to design incentives for sustainable farming and penalties for environmentally harmful practices. He promoted transparency in supply chains not only for safety but also for social justice, highlighting issues like fair wages and labor conditions. Elon understood that true sustainability required addressing the interconnectedness of food, environment, and society. The emotional dimension of this chapter was profound. Elon grappled with the tension between rapid technological change and the need for thoughtful, ethical stewardship. He faced criticism from some corners for being too cautious or too ambitious. Yet he remained steadfast, driven by a vision of a future where innovation served humanity rather than undermined it. His personal relationships deepened as well. Collaborating with experts and activists broadened his perspective and enriched his sense of community. Time spent with family and friends provided grounding and joy amid the intensity of his work. This chapter also marked a period of introspection for Elon. He revisited his early life experiences, the struggles, the isolation, and the drive to prove himself, and recognized how these shaped his approach to problem-solving and leadership. He acknowledged the importance of humility and openness in embracing new ideas and learning from mistakes. Through setbacks and breakthroughs, Elon's journey in Chapter 8 was about integration. Melding technology with ethics, innovation with compassion, and ambition with responsibility. The story illustrated that progress is most meaningful when it honors human dignity and nurtures the planet. As the chapter closed, Elon's vision of a transformed food industry was clearer than ever, one where transparency, sustainability, and technology converged to create a safer, fairer, and more vibrant world. The path ahead remained challenging, but Elon's experience had equipped him with resilience, insight, and hope. He stood ready to lead the charge into this next frontier, confident that the lessons of the past would guide him toward a future worthy of the promise. With the technological framework for transparency and sustainability steadily taking shape, Elon Musk understood that the next critical frontier was culture, the beliefs, habits, and values that shape how people interact with food and with each other. Focused on Elon's efforts to shift public perception and behavior toward responsible consumption, accountability, and community empowerment. The story of the 6 corrupt restaurants had revealed not only corporate malfeasance but also a broader cultural complacency toward where food comes from and how it impacts health and environment. Elon believed that real change required transforming this mindset at every level, from individual diners to industry executives. To start, Elon launched a national awareness campaign called Know What You Eat, designed to educate consumers about food safety, ethical sourcing, and environmental sustainability. The campaign used emotional storytelling, featuring voices of former restaurant employees, affected families, and scientists. The message was clear: every food choice matters, and consumers have the power to drive change through their actions. Elon harnessed social media influencers, local community leaders, and educators to spread the campaign's reach, tapping into existing networks to foster authentic conversations. The response was overwhelming. People across the country shared their own stories of food-related health scares, cultural traditions around dining, and hopes for a more transparent food system. The campaign sparked grassroots movements that organized community dinners, educational workshops, and food cooperatives. Elon found joy and inspiration in these moments of connection, where strangers came together over shared values and aspirations. Recognizing the importance of youth engagement, Elon partnered with schools and universities to integrate food ethics into curricula. He supported programs that taught children about nutrition, environmental impact, and social justice tied to food systems. These initiatives encouraged critical thinking and empowered students to become advocates for change in their families and communities. Elon often visited classrooms, sharing his journey and encouraging young people to ask tough questions and innovate responsibly. Meanwhile, Elon worked with industry leaders to shift corporate culture. He advocated for transparency not only as a legal or ethical obligation but as a competitive advantage that builds customer loyalty and trust. He helped create forums where executives could share best practices and challenges, fostering collaboration rather than secrecy. These efforts led some companies to voluntarily adopt higher standards and more transparent reporting. Still, resistance remained, especially from sectors comfortable with the status quo. Elon faced setbacks and criticism, including accusations of idealism and disruption. But he viewed these challenges as opportunities to refine his approach, listening deeply and adapting strategies. The emotional undercurrent of this chapter was about hope, patience, and the power of culture to transform systems. Elon reflected on the patience required to shift deeply ingrained habits and beliefs and the perseverance needed to inspire widespread change. He also recognized the importance of celebrating small victories and honoring the human stories behind the movement. Personal relationships flourished during this period. Elon's family supported his vision and often participated in community events, providing a source of warmth and grounding. Friendships deepened as shared purpose brought people closer, reinforcing the idea that collective action is stronger than individual effort. One particularly meaningful moment came when Elon attended a community dinner organized by former employees of the shuttered restaurants. The event was a mix of healing and celebration, where stories of hardship mingled with hopes for the future. Elon was moved by the resilience and solidarity displayed, a vivid reminder of why the fight mattered beyond headlines and policies. As the chapter progressed, Elon's public speaking and writing increasingly emphasized the moral dimensions of food choices, how what we eat reflects and shapes our values, relationships, and future. He challenged audiences to think beyond convenience or price, urging a deeper awareness of the interconnectedness of health, environment, and justice. The narrative highlighted how culture shapes behavior but also how individuals can influence culture, creating a dynamic cycle of change. The story of the 6 restaurants, once a tale of corruption and betrayal, evolved into a narrative of awakening and transformation. Elon's journey underscored the essential truth that meaningful progress depends on aligning systems with human values and engaging hearts as well as minds. As the chapter closed, Elon mused on the question that had anchored his work from the start: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? For him, it was the belief that change is possible when people come together with courage, compassion, and conviction. He stood ready to continue leading the movement toward a food culture grounded in trust, transparency, and love. The path ahead was uncertain, but the spirit of community and the power of shared purpose illuminated the way forward. As Elon Musk's mission to transform the food industry gained widespread traction, he found himself facing a new and complex challenge, confronting the global dimensions of food safety, corruption, and sustainability. Marked the expansion of his efforts beyond American borders, revealing the interconnectedness of food systems worldwide and the shared responsibilities needed to ensure safe, ethical, and sustainable practices on a global scale. Elon recognized early on that the problems uncovered in the 6 restaurants were not isolated incidents but symptoms of systemic issues prevalent in international supply chains. Ingredients sourced from distant countries often passed through multiple intermediaries, each with varying standards and oversight. This opacity created vulnerabilities that allowed dangerous practices to persist unnoticed, risking public health globally. To address this, Elon began forging partnerships with international organizations, governments, and NGOs dedicated to food safety and environmental sustainability. He understood that cooperation and knowledge sharing were essential to creating a comprehensive approach. One of his first initiatives was collaborating with the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, to promote global transparency standards. Elon helped develop frameworks for cross-border data sharing, inspection harmonization, and support for smallholder farmers to adopt sustainable and safe practices. These efforts aimed to create a global network of accountability where no link in the supply chain could hide negligence or exploitation. Elon also engaged with multinational corporations that operated large-scale food production and distribution. He pushed them to extend transparency commitments across all regions, including developing countries where regulatory oversight was often weaker. This involved confronting entrenched interests and navigating complex geopolitical dynamics, requiring diplomacy and persistence. The emotional stakes were high. Elon traveled extensively, witnessing firsthand the challenges faced by farmers, workers, and communities in diverse environments. He met families affected by contaminated food and environmental degradation, their stories deepening his resolve. These encounters reinforced the interconnectedness of health, justice, and sustainability, transcending borders and cultures. Back home, Elon worked to build public awareness of the global nature of food safety challenges. He launched multimedia campaigns featuring voices from around the world, highlighting common struggles and shared hopes. The message emphasized that consumer choices and advocacy in one country could influence practices thousands of miles away, fostering a sense of global citizenship and responsibility. Technological innovation remained a cornerstone of Elon's strategy. He expanded the Food Transparency Network to include international data, partnering with startups in Europe, Asia, and Africa to integrate localized information. The system was designed to respect cultural differences while maintaining rigorous standards, making global transparency a reality. However, the journey was not without setbacks. Political instability, corruption, and economic inequality complicated efforts, sometimes leading to stalled negotiations or compromised standards. Elon faced criticism from skeptics who doubted the feasibility of global reform and accused him of overreach. These challenges tested his resilience and adaptability, reminding him that meaningful change often requires patience and persistence. Personal support proved invaluable during this phase. Elon's family and close friends accompanied him on some trips, offering comfort amid the pressures of international advocacy. The shared experience deepened their bonds and provided moments of joy and reflection amid the demanding schedule. Elon's internal growth as he navigated cultural differences and learned humility. He recognized that no single approach could fit all contexts and that listening and collaboration were essential. This openness enriched his leadership and broadened his vision of a just and sustainable food system. As the chapter progressed, Elon's efforts began to yield tangible results. Several countries adopted improved transparency laws, multinational companies enhanced supply chain monitoring, and small farmers gained access to training and resources that improved their livelihoods and safety standards. These victories, though uneven and ongoing, offered hope and momentum. The emotional climax of this chapter came during a global summit Elon helped organize, bringing together leaders, activists, and experts from around the world. The event was a powerful testament to what collective will and shared values could achieve. Elon spoke passionately about the journey from uncovering corruption in 6 restaurants to building a worldwide movement for food justice. His words inspired renewed commitment and collaboration. As the chapter closed, Elon reflected on the journey's significance. He understood that global food safety and sustainability were not just technical or political issues but profoundly human ones, touching lives, families, and communities everywhere. He returned to the core question that had guided him: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? For Elon, it was the belief in a shared humanity and the power of cooperation to overcome even the most daunting challenges. He stood ready to continue the work, knowing that the path was long but that every step forward brought the world closer to a future where food was safe, just, and nourishing for all. After the global summit, Elon Musk realized that while international cooperation was essential, real change required deep local empowerment. Elon's focus on strengthening community-level initiatives to complement the broad systemic reforms he had championed. He understood that transparency and safety were most impactful when embedded in the daily lives of people who grow, prepare, and consume food. Returning to grassroots efforts, Elon sought to amplify the voices and agency of farmers, restaurant workers, and consumers, especially those in underserved communities disproportionately affected by unsafe food and environmental degradation. He partnered with local organizations to create food justice hubs, spaces where education, resources, and advocacy converged. These hubs provided training in sustainable agriculture, food safety practices, and workers' rights, equipping communities to hold businesses accountable and build healthier food systems. Elon traveled to rural towns, urban neighborhoods, and tribal lands, meeting with community leaders and residents. He listened to their unique challenges and aspirations, recognizing that one-size-fits-all solutions were inadequate. These encounters underscored the importance of culturally relevant approaches and respect for local knowledge. Technology again played a key role. Elon supported the development of mobile platforms that connected farmers directly with consumers and suppliers, reducing intermediaries who often exploited workers or compromised quality. These platforms enabled real-time feedback and transparency, strengthening trust and economic opportunity. At the same time, Elon encouraged participatory research projects that involved communities in monitoring environmental and health impacts. This empowered residents to advocate for policy changes based on evidence they helped gather, fostering a sense of ownership and agency. Emotional moments abounded in these grassroots engagements. Elon witnessed the resilience of people confronting systemic injustice and environmental harm. He was moved by stories of intergenerational knowledge passed down about farming and cooking, as well as struggles with illness and poverty linked to unsafe food. These stories fueled his determination to amplify marginalized voices. Collaborations with local artists, storytellers, and educators enriched the movement by integrating cultural expression and tradition. Festivals, murals, and oral histories celebrated food heritage while raising awareness about contemporary challenges. Elon saw these creative acts as vital to sustaining hope and connection amid adversity. Politically, Elon worked with municipal leaders to embed food justice principles into local policy. He advised on zoning reforms that supported urban gardens, subsidies for sustainable farmers, and protections for workers' rights. These local wins demonstrated that meaningful change could be achieved from the ground up. However, the path was not without obstacles. Economic pressures, political resistance, and social inequalities complicated efforts. Some communities faced gentrification and displacement, threatening the very food cultures and social networks Elon sought to protect. These realities underscored the complex interplay between food systems and broader social dynamics. Throughout, Elon remained a visible and vocal advocate, balancing public leadership with humble partnership. He emphasized that empowering communities meant sharing power and listening deeply. This shift challenged some of Elon's earlier assumptions and expanded his understanding of leadership as service. On a personal level, Elon found profound fulfillment in these community connections. The stories and smiles he encountered offered grounding and motivation beyond statistics and policies. His family joined him on several visits, deepening their involvement and strengthening their bonds. Reflection became a key theme, acknowledging the pain and injustice while celebrating courage and possibility. As the chapter progressed, Elon documented the successes and lessons learned from the food justice hubs and community partnerships. These stories became a powerful counternarrative to despair, showing how collective action rooted in respect and transparency could rebuild trust and health. The emotional climax came during a harvest festival organized by one hub, where farmers, workers, families, and activists shared food, music, and stories. Elon spoke about the journey from corruption to community empowerment, reminding everyone that the fight for safe and just food was ongoing but that together they had created something stronger and more hopeful. As the chapter closed, Elon contemplated the question that had guided him: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? He realized it was the faces and voices of the people he met, their courage, hope, and unwavering commitment to a better future. These connections sustained him as he prepared to lead the movement into its next phase, confident that change is most lasting when it grows from the roots. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? As Elon Musk's work rooted itself deeper into communities, he encountered a new challenge. Confronting the pervasive influence of misinformation and corporate spin in the food industry. Elon's battle against deceptive marketing, false certifications, and the complex web of propaganda that kept consumers in the dark and hindered reform efforts. Despite the advances in transparency technologies and grassroots empowerment, Elon realized that misinformation campaigns often undermine trust, confusing consumers and perpetuating harmful practices. To tackle this, Elon assembled a coalition of journalists, scientists, consumer advocates, and technologists to create a comprehensive strategy aimed at exposing lies and promoting truth. Central to this effort was the development of a digital watchdog platform called Truth on the Menu, which used AI to analyze advertising claims, certifications, and social media posts related to food products and restaurants. The platform flagged inconsistencies, misleading language, and hidden conflicts of interest, providing consumers with clear, evidence-based evaluations. Elon launched a public education campaign to raise awareness about common tactics used in food marketing, such as greenwashing, where companies falsely claim environmental benefits, and health washing, where unhealthy products are marketed as nutritious. Through engaging videos, podcasts, and community forums, the campaign empowered people to question advertising and demand transparency. One emotionally powerful moment occurred when Elon met with a group of mothers whose children had suffered from food allergies and illnesses linked to mislabeled products. Their stories fueled his resolve to ensure that no family would face preventable harm because of corporate deceit. Elon's team worked to strengthen regulations around labeling and advertising, collaborating with lawmakers to close loopholes that allowed misleading claims. He also advocated for independent third-party certification bodies that adhered to rigorous, transparent standards, counteracting the proliferation of self-appointed, green, or organic labels that lacked credibility. Meanwhile, Elon confronted the cultural challenge of skepticism and misinformation spread through social media and online communities. He recognized that combating falsehoods required not only fact-checking but also rebuilding trust in institutions and expertise. To this end, he fostered partnerships with trusted community leaders, healthcare providers, and educators to communicate accurate information in relatable ways. Elon also emphasized the importance of media literacy, supporting programs that taught people how to critically evaluate sources and claims. The narrative delved into Elon's personal frustration with the scale and sophistication of misinformation campaigns, but also his optimism about the power of informed communities to resist manipulation. He drew strength from stories of whistleblowers and investigative journalists who risked their careers to reveal hidden truths. On a strategic level, Elon's approach blended technology, policy, education, and community engagement to create a multi-layered defense against deception. The chapter highlighted the evolving tactics of corporate spin and the need for constant vigilance and innovation. Emotional highs came from moments when families, consumers, and workers reclaimed agency by seeing through false claims and advocating for their rights. Elon's personal relationships also deepened during this time. Conversations with his family often revolved around navigating misinformation in daily life and supporting each other in critical thinking. His friendships with journalists and scientists grew stronger, united by shared commitment to truth. Reflection became central to Elon's leadership style. He acknowledged the emotional toll of confronting entrenched lies and the temptation toward cynicism but reaffirmed his belief in the possibility of change through persistence and integrity. The chapter's climax arrived with the exposure of a major food conglomerate's deceptive practices, uncovered through coordinated investigative efforts supported by Elon's network. The revelation sparked national outrage, leading to legal actions, policy reforms, and shifts in consumer behavior. Elon spoke at a public forum, emphasizing that this victory was not just about holding one company accountable but about building a culture where truth is valued and protected. As the chapter closed, Elon returned to the question that had shaped his journey: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? He answered with conviction: the unwavering belief that transparency and truth are foundations for a just and healthy society. Ready to face new challenges, Elon stood firm in the knowledge that the fight against misinformation was ongoing but essential, and that every effort brought the world closer to the clarity and justice everyone deserved. As Elon Musk's campaign against misinformation gained momentum, he began to confront another layer of complexity: the environmental impact of food production and its often hidden consequences. Elon's expanding focus on sustainability, climate change, and how food systems contribute to global environmental crises. Elon recognized that addressing food safety and corruption was inseparable from tackling the damage caused by unsustainable agricultural and industrial practices. He saw that many of the 6 problematic restaurants had relied on suppliers whose farming methods depleted soil, polluted water, and contributed to greenhouse gas emissions. To broaden the movement's impact, Elon launched a new initiative called Earth on Your Plate, aimed at educating the public about the environmental footprint of their food choices and promoting sustainable alternatives. The initiative combined data transparency with storytelling, illustrating how everyday meals connect to far-reaching ecological effects. Elon collaborated with environmental scientists, farmers practicing regenerative agriculture, and chefs specializing in sustainable cuisine. Together, they created resources that made complex scientific information accessible and actionable for consumers. Emotional stories featured farmers who had transitioned to sustainable methods, overcoming financial hardship and skepticism to protect their land and communities. These narratives inspired hope and highlighted the possibility of change even within challenging economic realities. Elon also worked to influence policy, advocating for incentives that supported sustainable farming, reduced food waste, and promoted plant-based diets. He engaged with agricultural businesses to adopt practices that improved soil health, conserved water, and reduced carbon emissions. Recognizing the power of technology, Elon supported innovations such as precision agriculture, lab-grown meats, and supply chain optimization to minimize environmental harm. The chapter illustrated vivid scenes of farmland recovering from overuse, rivers running clear again, and communities revitalized by sustainable practices. Elon's personal connection deepened as he visited these places, experiencing both the scars of past damage and the promise of restoration. He reflected on the interconnectedness of health, environment, and justice, reinforcing his holistic vision for the food movement. Cultural shifts were also essential. Elon championed culinary traditions that emphasized seasonal, local, and plant-based foods, connecting sustainability to heritage and identity. He encouraged chefs and influencers to celebrate these values, making sustainable eating desirable and trendy rather than restrictive or elitist. Challenges persisted. Economic pressures, entrenched industrial interests, and consumer habits posed obstacles. Elon faced criticism from those who saw sustainability as impractical or threatening to livelihoods. These debates sharpened his approach, emphasizing inclusivity, fairness, and the need to support workers and farmers during transitions. Emotionally, Elon wrestled with urgency and patience. The climate crisis demanded swift action, yet meaningful change took time and cooperation. He drew strength from small victories and the growing awareness among diverse stakeholders. Family and friends remained a source of comfort and perspective, grounding him amid the complexities. As the chapter progressed, Elon's efforts began to reshape market dynamics. Demand for sustainable products grew, encouraging producers to innovate and improve practices. Educational programs expanded, reaching broader audiences and embedding environmental consciousness in food culture. The emotional climax came during an international conference where Elon presented compelling evidence linking food systems to climate outcomes. His speech called for integrated solutions and collective responsibility, inspiring renewed commitment among leaders and activists. Elon contemplating the question at the heart of his journey: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? His answer reflected a deepening awareness, the belief that caring for the planet is an act of love and legacy, binding generations and sustaining hope for a thriving future. With renewed purpose, Elon prepared to guide the movement through the critical next phase, confident that transforming food systems was integral to healing the Earth and ourselves. Elon Musk's journey had taken him from uncovering corruption in restaurants to championing global food safety and environmental sustainability, but as chapter unfolded, he confronted an even deeper challenge: rethinking the future of food itself. Technology had always been central to Elon's vision, but this phase pushed the boundaries of innovation toward radically transforming how humans produce and consume food. The chapter explored Elon's ambitious ventures into alternative protein sources, vertical farming, and biotechnology as solutions to the twin crises of food insecurity and environmental degradation. One of Elon's first major projects was investing in and developing scalable lab-grown meat technologies. Recognizing the environmental toll of conventional livestock farming, Elon believed cultured meat could provide a sustainable, ethical alternative without sacrificing taste or nutrition. He worked with scientists to improve production efficiency and reduce costs, aiming to make lab-grown meat accessible to all socioeconomic groups. Vertical farming was another frontier. Elon supported startups that utilized controlled indoor environments, LED lighting, and hydroponic systems to grow crops year-round in urban settings. These farms reduced land use, water consumption, and transportation emissions, bringing fresh produce closer to consumers and reducing food deserts. The chapter painted vivid images of futuristic green skyscrapers flourishing with leafy greens, herbs, and berries, symbolizing hope and innovation amid urban sprawl. Elon also embraced biotechnology to enhance crop resilience and nutritional content. He funded research into genetically engineered plants that required fewer pesticides, resisted climate stresses, and offered improved health benefits. While aware of public concerns and ethical debates surrounding genetic modification, Elon advocated for transparent dialogue and rigorous safety standards to build trust and acceptance. Throughout these ventures, Elon emphasized the importance of inclusivity and equity. He worked to ensure that new technologies did not exacerbate existing inequalities but rather empowered farmers, workers, and consumers across diverse communities. Pilot programs provided training and access to technologies in underserved areas, fostering local entrepreneurship and food sovereignty. The emotional journey in this chapter was marked by both exhilaration and tension. Elon celebrated scientific breakthroughs and entrepreneurial successes, yet grappled with skepticism from some traditional farmers, consumers wary of unnatural foods, and critics fearing corporate monopolization. These challenges pushed Elon to refine communication strategies, emphasizing transparency, education, and respect for cultural values. Elon's personal reflections revealed a deep humility and a willingness to learn from critics and collaborators alike. He recognized that technological solutions must be integrated with social, cultural, and ecological considerations to truly succeed. His family and close allies provided grounding support as he navigated the complex ethical and practical terrain. The narrative detailed moments of innovation. From laboratory experiments yielding the first tasty lab-grown burger to the opening of community vertical farms providing fresh produce to food-insecure neighborhoods. These scenes combined scientific detail with human stories, illustrating how technology and compassion intersected. Elon's leadership style evolved into one that fostered open collaboration across disciplines and sectors, breaking down silos and encouraging experimentation and adaptability. Policy advocacy continued as Elon pushed for regulations that encouraged innovation while protecting consumer safety and equity. He engaged with legislators to develop frameworks that balanced precaution with progress. The chapter's climax came with a major public tasting event showcasing lab-grown meat and vertical farm produce. The event was a turning point, generating media buzz and public interest, as well as honest conversations about the future of food. Elon's speech highlighted the journey from crisis to opportunity, emphasizing that embracing innovation was essential to nourishing a growing global population while healing the planet. As the chapter closed, Elon reflected on the guiding question, what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? His answer was rooted in a vision of hope, believing that human creativity and empathy could overcome the greatest challenges and build a better, more sustainable world. Ready to lead this new era of food innovation, Elon stood at the forefront of a revolution that blended science, ethics, and community, determined to ensure that the future of food was bright, just, and nourishing for all. As Elon Musk's vision for the future of food innovation expanded, he soon realized that technology alone wasn't enough to solve the systemic issues plaguing the food industry. Focused on the critical importance of food equity and access, highlighting Elon's commitment to ensuring that all communities, especially marginalized and low-income groups, could benefit from safer, healthier, and more sustainable food options. Elon was deeply moved by the stories of families struggling to find affordable nutritious food in food deserts, urban and rural areas where grocery stores and fresh produce were scarce or non-existent. He understood that without addressing these inequities, the entire movement risked leaving behind the very people who needed it most. To tackle this, Elon partnered with non-profit organizations, local governments, and social entrepreneurs to launch Nourish Every Table, an initiative aimed at improving food accessibility through innovative distribution models, community engagement, and economic empowerment. The program developed mobile markets, food co-ops, and urban farming projects tailored to specific neighborhoods. These efforts not only increased access to fresh food but also created jobs and strengthened community ties. Elon's approach emphasized listening to the lived experiences of residents, ensuring that solutions respected local cultures and preferences rather than imposing top-down fixes. Emotional stories emerged from the initiative: single mothers who could finally provide fresh meals for their children, elderly neighbors who rediscovered the joy of community gardening, and youth groups empowered to advocate for food justice. Elon found profound inspiration in these connections, recognizing that food was about more than nutrition, it was about dignity, identity, and belonging. The chapter detailed the logistical challenges faced in scaling such efforts, from funding shortages to regulatory hurdles and supply chain complexities. Elon applied his problem-solving mindset to design partnerships and leverage technology. Using apps to coordinate volunteers and track food distribution, for example, to overcome barriers. His team also worked to educate consumers about food budgeting, nutrition, and waste reduction, helping families maximize the benefits of improved access. Politically, Elon advocated for policies that address structural inequalities, such as expanding food assistance programs, incentivizing grocery stores to open in underserved areas, and supporting small farmers who served local markets. He emphasized that food equity was inseparable from broader social justice movements, requiring cross-sector collaboration and systemic change. Elon's personal reflections in this chapter revealed a growing awareness of the complex interplay between food, poverty, race, and health. He acknowledged his own privilege and the need to elevate voices traditionally marginalized in food policy discussions. Family conversations deepened, with discussions about how everyone could contribute to making food systems fairer and more inclusive. The narrative wove vivid scenes of community events, cooking classes, harvest festivals, neighborhood dinners, where food served as a bridge across divides, fostering understanding and collective action. The emotional climax centered on a community summit where residents shared their successes, challenges, and hopes. Elon listened intently, moved by the resilience and creativity displayed. He emphasized that true food justice required ongoing commitment and that the movement's strength came from grassroots participation. As the chapter concluded, Elon returned to his guiding question: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? His answer reflected a deep compassion and resolve. The belief that every person deserves access to nourishing food and the opportunity to thrive. Energized by the progress and inspired by the people he served, Elon prepared to tackle the next phase of his mission, determined to build a food system where safety, sustainability, and equity were not luxuries but fundamental rights for all. Elon Musk's commitment to food equity and access led him to confront another critical dimension: labor rights within the food industry. Elon's efforts to advocate for the often invisible workers whose labor sustained the entire food system yet who faced exploitation, unsafe working conditions, and inadequate protections. Elon understood that without addressing these injustices, the movement for safer and more sustainable food would be incomplete. He began by meeting with workers across the spectrum: farm laborers, processing plant employees, restaurant staff, and delivery drivers. Their stories were sobering. Long hours with little pay, exposure to harmful chemicals, lack of health benefits, and fear of retaliation for speaking out. These encounters deeply affected Elon, fueling his resolve to champion labor justice as integral to food justice. To amplify workers' voices, Elon collaborated with labor unions, advocacy groups, and legal experts to develop programs that provided education about rights, access to legal support, and platforms for collective bargaining. He supported the creation of transparent reporting systems where workers could safely report abuses without fear. Technology played a key role. Elon's team developed an app that allowed anonymous feedback on working conditions and linked workers to resources. Elon also pushed for policy reforms that mandated higher safety standards, fair wages, and protections against discrimination and harassment. He worked closely with lawmakers to draft legislation that held corporations accountable for labor violations and incentivized ethical employment practices. The narrative highlighted dramatic moments, such as workers organizing strikes that led to improved contracts and the shutdown of facilities with egregious violations. Elon attended rallies and meetings, lending visibility and support. These experiences strengthened his belief in the power of collective action and solidarity. Emotionally, Elon grappled with the weight of systemic injustice but found hope in the courage and resilience of workers fighting for dignity. He reflected on the interconnectedness of worker health, food safety, and environmental sustainability, recognizing that these issues could not be separated. Family discussions deepened as well, with Elon sharing what he learned and encouraging his children to appreciate the human stories behind every meal. The chapter vividly described workplaces from sprawling farms to bustling kitchens, capturing the harsh realities and moments of camaraderie among workers. Elon's leadership style evolved to emphasize partnership and respect, recognizing workers as essential stakeholders rather than passive beneficiaries. The emotional climax came when Elon helped facilitate the first nationwide coalition of food industry workers' rights groups, uniting diverse voices around a common agenda for change. This historic moment symbolized the growing power of labor within the food justice movement. As the chapter concluded, Elon reflected on the question that had guided him: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? His answer was clear: the unwavering spirit of workers demanding respect and fairness. This conviction fueled his determination to continue fighting for a food system where the dignity of labor was honored alongside safety, sustainability, and equity. With renewed energy, Elon prepared to face the ongoing challenges ahead, committed to building a future where no one who feeds the world would be forgotten or left behind. As Elon Musk's campaign expanded to encompass labor rights in the food industry, he realized that the global nature of food supply chains introduced new complexities and ethical dilemmas. Elon's efforts to expose and address exploitation, corruption, and unsafe practices occurring far beyond American borders, shining a light on the human and environmental costs embedded in international food systems. Elon's journey took him to distant countries where raw ingredients originated: tropical plantations, fishing villages, and remote farms. He witnessed firsthand the challenges faced by workers in developing nations: hazardous conditions, child labor, wage theft, and environmental degradation caused by multinational corporations prioritizing profit over people and planet. These revelations intensified Elon's conviction that food justice was a global imperative requiring international cooperation and accountability. Partnering with global NGOs, investigative journalists, and ethical trade organizations, Elon launched the Global Food Transparency Initiative, aimed at mapping and monitoring supply chains to uncover abuses and promote fair trade practices. Utilizing cutting-edge satellite imaging, blockchain tracking, and crowdsourced data from workers and local communities, the initiative created unprecedented visibility into the origins of food products. Elon's team developed an interactive platform accessible to consumers, retailers, and regulators, revealing the true stories behind everyday ingredients. The initiative empowered consumers to make informed choices, favoring products certified as ethically sourced and environmentally sustainable. Elon also engaged with governments and international bodies to advocate for stronger regulations, labor protections, and environmental standards in global food trade. He emphasized the need for collaboration across borders to combat corruption and hold corporations accountable for violations anywhere in their supply chains. Emotional narratives highlighted the resilience of workers and communities fighting exploitation, fishermen organizing cooperatives to resist illegal practices, farmers adopting sustainable methods despite economic pressures, and activists risking their safety to expose abuses. These stories underscored the human stakes and the interconnectedness of global food systems. Elon's reflections revealed a deepening awareness of the geopolitical complexities involved, including power imbalances, economic dependencies, and cultural differences. He navigated diplomatic challenges with sensitivity, building bridges while maintaining a firm stance on justice and transparency. Family conversations expanded to include global perspectives, reminding Elon of the shared humanity behind food regardless of geography. The chapter vividly described diverse settings, from crowded markets in Southeast Asia to verdant coffee plantations in Central America, painting a rich tapestry of place and people. Elon's leadership emphasized humility, partnership, and relentless pursuit of truth amid a tangled web of interests and influences. The emotional climax came with the public unveiling of a major exposé revealing widespread labor abuses and environmental violations linked to popular imported products. The report sparked international outcry, policy reforms, and shifts in consumer behavior worldwide. Elon's speech at a global summit called for solidarity and systemic change, inspiring a new wave of activism and cooperation. As the chapter closed, Elon returned to the question that had shaped his mission: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? His answer echoed across continents: the belief in justice transcending borders and the power of collective action to transform systems for the better. Poised to lead the next chapter of global food justice, Elon stood ready to confront the challenges and opportunities ahead, committed to a future where food was safe, fair, and sustainable everywhere. After shining a spotlight on global supply chains, Elon Musk turned his focus inward to a challenge that was both personal and systemic: food waste in America. Explored how enormous quantities of edible food were discarded daily, contributing to environmental harm, economic loss, and perpetuating food insecurity. Elon saw food waste as a critical issue intertwined with safety, sustainability, and equity. He launched a comprehensive campaign called "Waste Not, Want Not," aimed at reducing waste across the entire food system, from farms and factories to retailers, restaurants, and consumers. Elon partnered with grocery chains, food manufacturers, and restaurants to implement innovative technologies and practices that optimized inventory management, improved packaging, and extended product shelf life. One key innovation was a smart inventory system using AI to predict demand more accurately, minimizing overproduction and spoilage. At the consumer level, Elon promoted awareness campaigns encouraging mindful purchasing, proper food storage, and creative use of leftovers. The narrative painted detailed scenes of bustling supermarkets, kitchen counters, and community fridges filled with rescued food, illustrating the tangible impact of waste reduction efforts. Elon also supported food rescue organizations that collected surplus food and redistributed it to shelters, food banks, and community centers. He highlighted stories of volunteers who coordinated complex logistics to save tons of perfectly good food from landfills daily. These stories brought emotional depth, showcasing how acts of compassion and efficiency combine to address a massive problem. Recognizing systemic barriers, Elon advocated for policy changes including tax incentives for food donations, clearer labeling to reduce consumer confusion over expiration dates, and stricter regulations on waste management. He worked with legislators and industry leaders to create a framework encouraging waste reduction while ensuring safety and fairness. Elon's personal reflections revealed a growing appreciation for the cultural and psychological aspects of food waste, how habits, social norms, and economic factors influence behavior. Family meals became opportunities to practice sustainability, with Elon's children learning to value food and reduce waste. The chapter also detailed moments of frustration when systemic inertia and competing interests slowed progress, but these were balanced by breakthroughs and small victories that fueled perseverance. The emotional climax came at a national food summit where Elon presented data demonstrating significant waste reductions and associated environmental benefits, inspiring renewed commitments and collaborations. The chapter concluded with Elon contemplating the guiding question, what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? His answer was a blend of pragmatism and hope, the conviction that even small actions, multiplied across millions, could create profound change. With determination, Elon prepared to extend the movement further, convinced that addressing food waste was essential to building a food system that was not only safer and more just but also more responsible to the planet's finite resources. With the success of his food waste initiative, Elon Musk recognized the next frontier in transforming America's food system was rebuilding trust between consumers and the food industry. Elon's efforts to combat widespread distrust fueled by scandals, misinformation, and opaque practices. He knew that without transparency and accountability, even the best innovations and policies would falter. To address this, Elon launched the Clear Plate Project, a comprehensive campaign aimed at restoring faith by promoting openness about food sourcing, production, and safety. The project introduced standardized labeling that went beyond nutrition facts to include detailed origin stories, environmental footprints, and labor practices involved in producing each product. This transparency empowered consumers to make informed choices aligned with their values. Elon collaborated with tech companies to develop apps and platforms that allowed scanning products for real-time information, ratings, and verified reviews from trusted sources. He also worked with regulators to ensure truthful advertising and crack down on deceptive marketing practices. The chapter detailed vivid scenes of consumers in grocery stores using their smartphones to uncover stories behind everyday foods, sparking conversations and greater awareness. Elon also championed direct engagement between producers and consumers through farmers' markets, community-supported agriculture, and digital forums, fostering personal connections that humanized the food system. Emotional stories emerged from producers who embraced transparency, sharing challenges and triumphs openly, building loyalty and respect. Elon's reflections revealed his understanding of how trust was fragile yet fundamental, shaped by honesty, empathy, and consistent action. He acknowledged the role of social media in both spreading misinformation and serving as a tool for education and dialogue. Family moments highlighted the importance of open communication and critical thinking, as Elon encouraged his children to question, learn, and seek truth. The chapter also explored setbacks, such as pushback from corporations resistant to scrutiny and consumers overwhelmed by information overload. Elon tackled these challenges by emphasizing clarity, simplicity, and accessible storytelling. The emotional climax came during a national Transparency Week event, where Elon unveiled a groundbreaking platform aggregating verified data and facilitating direct dialogue between consumers, producers, and regulators. The event drew widespread attention and sparked a cultural shift toward greater accountability. As the chapter concluded, Elon revisited the question, what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? His answer was rooted in conviction, the belief that truth and trust are the bedrock of any meaningful relationship, including the one between people and their food. Fueled by this insight, Elon prepared to lead the movement toward a future where transparency and trust restored balance and empowered everyone in the food chain. Building on the momentum of the Clear Plate project, Elon Musk turned his attention to food education as a critical pillar for long-term change. Elon's vision to empower individuals and communities with the knowledge and skills necessary to make healthy, sustainable, and ethical food choices. He believed education was the foundation for transforming food culture, from childhood through adulthood. Elon partnered with schools, community centers, and digital platforms to launch the Food Future Academy, an innovative program blending hands-on learning with cutting-edge technology. The curriculum covered nutrition science, cooking skills, environmental impacts, food justice, and entrepreneurship, designed to be accessible and engaging for diverse learners. The narrative painted vivid scenes of classrooms buzzing with excitement as students grew their own gardens, experimented with lab-grown meat samples, and participated in debates about food ethics. Elon emphasized the importance of experiential learning, combining practical skills with critical thinking and creativity. The chapter highlighted inspiring stories of students who discovered passions for sustainable farming, culinary arts, or food policy advocacy, transforming their outlooks and futures. Elon's reflections revealed his belief that education must be inclusive and culturally relevant, respecting traditions while introducing innovation. Family interactions showcased Elon's commitment to lifelong learning, with his own children exploring new foods, technologies, and ideas at home. The chapter also addressed challenges such as unequal access to quality education, resistance to curriculum changes, and misinformation. Elon worked with educators, policymakers, and communities to design adaptable, scalable programs and advocate for equitable funding. Emotional tension arose when the academy faced political pushback from groups fearing indoctrination or economic disruption. Elon navigated these conflicts with openness, dialogue, and evidence-based advocacy, underscoring the shared goal of nurturing informed, empowered citizens. The emotional climax arrived at the first Food Future Academy graduation, a celebratory event showcasing student projects, community partnerships, and testimonials. Elon spoke passionately about the transformative power of knowledge and the responsibility to pass it forward. As the chapter closed, Elon reflected once again on the question, "What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?" His answer was the power of education to inspire hope, ignite curiosity, and build resilience. Ready to advance this mission, Elon prepared to expand the academy and integrate food education into the fabric of American life, confident that informed choices would lead to a healthier, more just, and sustainable future for all. After establishing the Food Future Academy, Elon Musk recognized that policy reform was essential to sustain and scale the transformation he envisioned. Elon's strategic engagement with lawmakers, regulators, and industry leaders to craft legislation supporting food safety, sustainability, labor rights, equity, and transparency. Elon realized that without political will and systemic change, grassroots efforts risked fragmentation and limited impact. He assembled a diverse advisory council of experts, activists, business leaders, and community representatives to develop a comprehensive food policy agenda. The narrative described intense meetings where differing perspectives converged on common goals, highlighting the complexities of balancing economic, social, and environmental priorities. Elon's approach combined data-driven advocacy with compelling human stories, emphasizing the real lives behind statistics. The chapter detailed Elon's lobbying efforts on Capitol Hill, navigating partisan divides and corporate interests. He testified before congressional committees, using clear, persuasive language to argue for reforms such as stricter food safety standards, incentives for sustainable farming, expanded food assistance programs, and enforcement of labor protections. Elon leveraged his public platform to mobilize citizen support, organizing campaigns that encouraged voters to demand action. The story illustrated the emotional highs and lows of policy battles, moments of breakthrough legislation followed by setbacks from powerful opposition. Elon's resilience was fueled by witnessing the tangible benefits of prior initiatives, reminding him that change was possible despite obstacles. Family discussions often centered on civic engagement and the importance of voting and advocacy, reflecting Elon's belief in democratic participation. The chapter vividly portrayed hearings, rallies, and strategy sessions, immersing readers in the high-stakes world of food policy reform. Elon's reflections conveyed his growing understanding of political realities and the need for patience, compromise, and persistence. The emotional climax arrived when a landmark bill incorporating many of Elon's recommendations passed, signaling a significant victory for the food justice movement. Elon addressed a celebratory gathering, emphasizing that the work was far from over and that sustained vigilance and action were essential. As the chapter concluded, Elon revisited the guiding question, what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? His answer was steadfast commitment to justice and the belief that collective efforts could reshape systems for the better. Energized by this milestone, Elon prepared to support implementation and continue pushing boundaries, determined to build a food system that truly served all Americans with safety, fairness, and dignity. With the passage of landmark food policy legislation, Elon Musk knew that enforcement and community engagement would determine its real-world success. Elon's efforts to ensure the laws translated into tangible improvements, avoiding the common pitfalls of bureaucracy and neglect. He collaborated with state and local agencies to develop monitoring systems that tracked compliance, using data analytics and community reporting to identify violations and gaps. Elon championed a participatory approach, encouraging communities to take ownership by establishing watchdog groups and feedback mechanisms. These grassroots networks became powerful allies in holding corporations and regulators accountable, fostering transparency and responsiveness. The narrative painted vivid scenes of town hall meetings, training sessions, and community patrols, illustrating how ordinary people became empowered agents of change. Elon also invested in capacity building, funding programs to train inspectors, support whistleblowers, and provide legal aid to workers and consumers. The chapter described moments of tension when enforcement clashed with entrenched interests, but Elon's unwavering support gave advocates courage to persist. He emphasized the importance of building trust between communities and authorities, fostering dialogue rather than confrontation. Emotional stories emerged of individuals whose lives improved thanks to stricter enforcement, workers gaining safer conditions, families accessing healthier food, and neighborhoods revitalized by new standards. Elon's reflections highlighted the complexity of translating policy into practice, acknowledging setbacks but celebrating progress. Family moments revealed Elon's growing appreciation for community wisdom and collective action. The emotional climax came during a national conference showcasing successful enforcement stories and innovative community partnerships, with Elon praising the power of collaboration and perseverance. As the chapter closed, Elon answered the ever-present question, what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? His answer was the belief that real change happens when people unite around shared values and take responsibility for their futures. Ready to deepen these connections, Elon prepared to expand support for grassroots empowerment, confident that the path to a just and sustainable food system was paved by collective courage and action. As Elon Musk's efforts matured, he recognized that innovation was essential not only in technology but in cultural attitudes toward food. Elon's initiatives to reshape societal norms around food consumption, promoting mindfulness, diversity, and sustainability. He launched the Culture Shift campaign, blending art, media, and community storytelling to inspire new ways of relating to food that honored health, environment, and equity. Elon partnered with filmmakers, musicians, chefs, and educators to create compelling narratives that celebrated diverse food traditions and highlighted the impact of choices on the planet and society. The campaign featured documentaries, music festivals, cooking workshops, and public art installations that engaged audiences emotionally and intellectually. Vivid descriptions brought to life scenes of vibrant street fairs, immersive exhibits, and heartfelt testimonials from people whose lives have been transformed by embracing more conscious eating habits. Elon emphasized the power of storytelling to connect people across divides and motivate change beyond regulations and technologies. He reflected on the importance of embracing cultural diversity as a source of strength and creativity in food systems. Family experiences enriched this journey, with Elon's children exploring ancestral recipes and participating in community events, deepening their appreciation for heritage and innovation. The chapter also addressed challenges such as cultural resistance, misinformation, and the commercialization of food culture. Elon navigated these by fostering inclusive dialogue, promoting authenticity, and resisting commodification that undermine values. Emotional peaks included moments of community healing through shared food experiences and powerful artistic expressions that moved audiences to action. The climax arrived with a nationwide cultural event that united artists, activists, and everyday people in a celebration of food as a force for unity and transformation. Elon's closing reflection revisited the question, what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? His answer was the conviction that culture shapes reality, and by nurturing positive cultural shifts, a better food future was possible. Energized by the success of the Culture Shift campaign, Elon prepared to integrate cultural innovation as a permanent pillar in the ongoing movement for food justice and sustainability. As Elon Musk's vision for a transformed food system neared its peak, he realized the critical importance of technology not only as a tool but as a catalyst for empowerment and innovation. Elon's latest venture, creating accessible, community-driven food tech hubs designed to democratize innovation and bridge the gap between high-tech solutions and everyday food challenges. These hubs became vibrant centers where entrepreneurs, scientists, farmers, and activists collaborated to develop and scale technologies addressing food safety, sustainability, and equity. Elon invested heavily in ensuring these hubs were inclusive, equipped with state-of-the-art labs, makerspaces, and training programs accessible to people from diverse backgrounds and skill levels. The narrative detailed the energy and creativity buzzing through these spaces, teams prototyping vertical farms, developing affordable food sensors, designing waste reduction apps, and experimenting with alternative proteins. Elon emphasized the ethos of co-creation and community ownership, breaking down traditional barriers between innovation and implementation. He recounted inspiring stories of young inventors from underserved neighborhoods creating solutions with real impact, fueling hope and opportunity. Family interactions revealed Elon's commitment to nurturing curiosity and creativity, encouraging his children to explore and contribute. The chapter also addressed challenges such as funding gaps, intellectual property disputes, and balancing rapid innovation with ethical considerations. Elon's reflections showed his deepening awareness of technology's double-edged nature, its potential to empower or marginalize, and the responsibility to steer it toward justice and inclusivity. The emotional climax unfolded during a showcase event where diverse teams presented breakthrough projects that promised to revolutionize food safety monitoring, reduce waste, and improve nutrition. Elon's keynote highlighted the power of collective innovation and the necessity of bridging technology with social justice. As the chapter concluded, Elon answered the enduring question, what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? His answer was the limitless potential of human creativity when fueled by purpose and collaboration. With renewed vigor, Elon prepared to expand the network of food tech hubs nationwide, confident that technology, combined with community, would unlock a future where food systems were resilient, equitable, and sustainable. As the journey toward a safer, fairer, and more sustainable food system reached its culmination, Elon Musk took a moment to reflect on the long road traveled and the lessons learned. Weaving together the threads of innovation, education, policy, culture, and community into a powerful conclusion rooted in hope and resilience. Elon revisited the initial question that had driven him, what if you suddenly lost everything and had no one by your side? The journey had shown him that while challenges were inevitable and setbacks frequent, the true strength lay in connection, between people, ideas, and shared values. The chapter recounted key milestones, from exposing unsafe restaurants to pioneering food waste reduction, rebuilding trust, educating future generations, influencing policy, empowering communities, shifting culture, and democratizing technology. Each effort was framed not just as an individual achievement but as part of a collective movement fueled by countless passionate people. Vivid scenes depicted celebrations, moments of sorrow and frustration, breakthroughs, and everyday acts of courage and kindness. Elon's personal growth was evident, his empathy deepened, his vision broadened, and his commitment to service strengthened. Family moments provided intimate insight into how love, sacrifice, and shared purpose had sustained him. The narrative emphasized the importance of learning from failures, embracing uncertainty, and holding on to hope even when progress seemed slow. The emotional climax came in a powerful speech Elon gave at a national food summit, where he shared a profound truth: life is full of surprises, but love will always lead the way. This message resonated deeply, reminding everyone that at the heart of transformation lay compassion, for people, the planet, and future generations. The chapter closed with Elon inviting the audience to carry forward the torch, to remain curious, courageous, and connected. As he once again posed the question, "What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?" his answer was clear: the unwavering belief in humanity's capacity to overcome, create, and heal together. With this, Elon Musk's story ended not with finality but with an open door, a call to action, a spark for new beginnings, and a testament to the enduring power of hope. After the National Food Summit, Elon Musk found himself reflecting more deeply on the legacy he hoped to leave, not just in the food system, but in the broader culture of innovation and responsibility. Elon's vision for the future beyond policy and technology, emphasizing the power of individual actions and community spirit to sustain change over generations. Elon believed that while large-scale systems and innovations were vital, lasting transformation depended on everyday people embracing stewardship for their food, health, and environment. He launched the Seeds of Change initiative, a grassroots movement designed to inspire local communities across America to reconnect with their food sources, share knowledge, and cultivate resilience. The initiative encouraged community gardens, cooking classes, seed exchanges, and storytelling circles, weaving together tradition and innovation. Elon traveled to small towns and urban neighborhoods alike, listening to stories, learning about unique food cultures, and empowering local leaders to spark change. The narrative described vibrant scenes of neighbors planting gardens, elders teaching recipes, and children discovering the joy of growing food. Elon emphasized that these small, decentralized efforts formed the foundation of a healthier, more equitable food future. He shared heartfelt moments with families who, despite economic hardships, found hope and connection through food. The chapter explored challenges such as limited resources, cultural barriers, and climate pressures, but highlighted the creativity and determination of communities overcoming them. Elon's reflections underscored the importance of humility and partnership, recognizing that no single person or technology could solve all problems. Instead, a network of caring individuals, supported by innovation and policy, would build resilience and justice. The emotional climax came during a Seeds of Change festival, where people from diverse backgrounds gathered to celebrate shared harvests, exchange stories, and renew their commitment to nurturing food, land, and each other. Elon's closing words invited everyone to see themselves as stewards of the future, reminding them that every seed planted is a promise to tomorrow. As the chapter ended, Elon once again pondered the enduring question, "What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?" His answer was simple yet profound: the power of community and the belief that together, people can cultivate a better world, one small act at a time. This chapter left readers inspired to carry the vision forward in their own lives, reaffirming that change begins not just with leaders, but with all of us. As the Seeds of Change initiative grew, Elon Musk realized that fostering global connections was the next crucial step in his vision. Elon's efforts to build bridges between communities across the world, sharing knowledge and resources to address food challenges collectively. Recognizing that food insecurity, climate change, and sustainability were global issues transcending borders, Elon launched the Global Table Project, a network of international partners dedicated to collaboration and innovation. The project connected farmers, scientists, activists, and policymakers from diverse cultures and climates, encouraging exchange of best practices and co-creation of solutions. Elon traveled extensively, from the urban farms of Detroit to rice paddies in Southeast Asia and permaculture sites in Africa, learning firsthand the unique struggles and triumphs of different communities. The narrative painted vivid scenes of lively gatherings around shared meals, spirited discussions, and joint workshops where ideas flowed freely. Elon emphasized the importance of humility and listening, acknowledging that no one culture had all the answers, and that true progress required mutual respect and cooperation. The chapter highlighted inspiring stories of technology transfer, such as drought-resistant crops adapted in arid regions and innovative waste reduction methods scaled globally. Family Moments revealed Elon's reflections on the interconnectedness of humanity, as his children embraced multicultural friendships and languages. Challenges such as geopolitical tensions, economic disparities, and cultural misunderstandings surfaced, but Elon's diplomatic approach helped navigate these complexities with grace and persistence. The emotional climax came during an international summit hosted in San Francisco, where representatives from dozens of countries committed to a shared vision of food justice and sustainability. Elon's keynote speech underscored the power of global solidarity, reminding the audience that we all sit at the same table, sharing the future of our planet. As the chapter closed, Elon revisited the question that had guided him throughout: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? His answer reflected a deepened sense of global community, the belief that when people come together across differences, they can create a world of abundance and care. This chapter left readers inspired to see themselves as part of a global family, empowered to contribute to solutions beyond borders. As Elon Musk's Global Table project gained momentum, he recognized that one of the most powerful tools to drive change was storytelling, sharing real voices and lived experiences to inspire empathy and action. Elon's launch of the Voices of Food initiative, a multimedia platform designed to amplify the stories of farmers, workers, activists, and everyday people shaping the future of food. Elon believed that behind every statistic was a human story that could break down barriers, challenge assumptions, and spark meaningful connection. The platform featured documentaries, podcasts, photo essays, and interactive forums, creating a vibrant community of listeners and storytellers across the world. The narrative described evocative moments, from a farmer in Iowa sharing the challenges of sustainable agriculture, to a chef in New Orleans reviving ancestral recipes, to a community organizer in Nairobi fighting food deserts. Elon traveled to meet these storytellers in person, capturing their journeys with humility and respect. Family scenes revealed how Elon's children became active participants, interviewing neighbors and sharing their own food stories, bridging generational and cultural divides. The chapter also explored the power of storytelling in healing and reconciliation, as communities used the platform to address historical injustices related to land, labor, and access. Challenges included ensuring diverse representation, avoiding exploitation, and navigating the complexities of digital misinformation. Elon and his team worked tirelessly to uphold ethical storytelling standards, fostering trust and authenticity. The emotional climax came during the platform's first global live event, where storytellers and audiences connected in real time across continents, sharing tears, laughter, and resolve. Elon's closing reflection highlighted that stories are the threads weaving us together, reminding everyone that, when we listen deeply, we find our shared humanity. As the chapter concluded, Elon pondered the question that had driven him from the start: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? His answer was the transformative power of empathy, fueled by stories that open hearts and minds. This chapter inspired readers to listen and share, recognizing that every voice matters in building a just and nourishing food future. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?